Hello students! Today we are going to talk about order of operations. So far we've looked at adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, integers, decimals, and fractions, but we haven't looked at any problems that involved multiple operations, like a multiplication and an addition. And we have to be careful when we have multiple operations in one problem. Let me show you why. Let's look at 3 plus 7 times 5. Now, if you had never learned order of operations, there's theoretically two ways to do this problem. We could do the addition and then the multiplication, or we could do the multiplication and then the addition. Now, we're going to do this problem both ways, and the goal here is to determine whether we get the same answer or a different answer. If we get the same answer, then maybe the order doesn't matter. But if we get a different answer, then the order does matter, and we have to figure out what order we should be following. So I'm going to do this problem first by starting with the addition. Let's do 3 plus 7. 3 plus 7 is 10. And then we do the multiplication next. 10 times 5 is 50. Let's try it again, but this time we will start with the multiplication. 7 times 5 is 35. And 3 plus 35 is not 50, it is 38. So these are two different answers, which begs the question, which one is correct? Now, a long time ago, and I can't tell you when because I'm a horrible historian, but a long time ago, there was a decision that was made amongst mathematicians as far as what comes first, addition or multiplication. And they decided that multiplication comes first. So this answer, 38, is the correct answer. 50, unfortunately, is not correct. All right? But it's not just addition and multiplication. There are also divisions and subtractions and exponents and grouping symbols, parentheses. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about order of operations now, to make sure that everybody understands, and then we're going to go through a few examples to get some good practice. All right, so here are the written instructions for order of operations. First, step number 1 is to perform all operations within grouping symbols. Let's say we have a multiplication that's inside parentheses. Those parentheses tell us that we have to do that multiplication first. It's kind of like the fast pass. If you've ever gone to Six Flags, you can pay extra to get a pass that lets you skip in front of everybody else. Well, parentheses and other grouping symbols are the fast pass that allow us to put some operations in front of others. So whenever there's operations inside of parentheses, we need to do those first. After that, the next thing that we do is we evaluate all exponential expressions. Any exponents need to be evaluated. We haven't really seen exponents much so far, aside from our prime factorizations, but we'll look at some examples of those today. Then, after we've evaluated the exponents, we need to do multiplications and divisions, but specifically, we do them from left to right. The same thing is true with additions and subtractions at the end. We do them from left to right. Sometimes people are taught PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, because we know we start with parentheses or grouping symbols, and then we do exponents, and then multiplications and divisions and additions and subtractions. But the problem with PEMDAS is people think that multiplication comes before division, when in actuality, they have the same priority, and we do them from left to right. The same is true with addition and subtraction. So I don't like PEMDAS, because it causes more confusion than actual help. So we're not going to think about PEMDAS, we're going to think about these rules that I've written here, and we are going to refer back to them as we do problems. So let's jump in to a few problems. Let's take a look at 45 divided by 5 times 3. Now we need to figure out where to start, and some students think we need to do this multiplication 5 times 3 because we have to start with the grouping symbols. But that's actually not correct. Let me explain why. The rule says that we need to perform all operations within grouping symbols. So we're looking for an addition, a subtraction, or a multiplication or division that happens inside of a grouping symbol. But here, all we have inside these parentheses is a number. We don't have a multiplication inside or an addition inside. In this case, these parentheses are just a way to denote multiplication. So these parentheses, this multiplication, actually happens in the third step with multiplications and divisions. It's important that you understand these things. I'm going to point out some of the common misconceptions so that we can make sure we're moving through these problems confidently. So we don't have any operations within grouping symbols. We can skip that step. There are no exponents. We can skip that step. Now we have to do multiplications and divisions from left to right. We've got a multiplication and we've got a division. Which one comes first? Well, we're going to do the division first because that comes first from left to right. So first we're going to take 45 and divide it by 5. 45 divided by 5 is 9. And then we're going to take 9 and multiply it by 3. The multiplication comes next. 9 times 3 is 27. And that is our final answer. All right, let's do a few more. This one's going to have more operations. 6 squared minus 24 divided by 2 squared times 3 minus 1. So this is an expression that has several different operations in it. Let's figure out where we need to start. Now, we don't have any grouping symbols, so we can skip the first step and move on to the second step, which says evaluate all exponential expressions. There are 2 exponential expressions, 6 squared and 2 squared. Now, we can actually do these in the same step. The exponential expressions rule doesn't apply from left to right because when we have 2 different exponents on 2 different numbers, they aren't affected by each other. So we can square both of these at once. Now we know that squaring a number means multiplying it by itself. So when we're squaring 6, that means we're taking 6 times 6, and that's 36. So we've got 36 minus 24 divided by 2 squared. It means 2 times 2, which is 4, and then times 3 minus 1. So we've done the exponents. Now we need to move on to multiplications and divisions. Which are we going to do first here? The multiplication or the division? Well, the answer is that we do the division first because multiplications and divisions go from left to right. So we need to take 24 and divide it by 4. That's going to give us 6. So we've got 36 minus 6 times 3 minus 1. After we do that division, we need to do the multiplication because multiplication comes before those subtractions. 6 times 3 is 18. So we've got 36 minus 18 minus 1. Lastly, we're to additions and subtractions, and we need to go from left to right, which means we need to start with 36 minus 18. 36 minus 18 is 18, and then 18 minus 1 is 17. And that's our final answer. There are several other situations that we can run into involving exponents and negatives. I want to encourage you to click on the link below to access some of the other examples so that you can work through them one at a time and make sure you understand order of operations.